Welcome to Beyond Belief Paranormal Stories, the podcast that deep dives into the world of the paranormal, the occult, and the unexplained, with your hosts, Kayla and Melissa.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. We are Beyond Belief Paranormal Stories, and today we are going to be talking about the Amityville horror movie.
And the investigation and all things Amityville. Oh my goodness.
So
Amityville.
Is it Amity or Amity?
I think it's Amity because there's no H.
I always call it Amityville, but I'm like, I feel like it's wrong.
I'm not. I mean, it could be, but I think it's Amity just because there is no H. But Did you know that Amity means friendly village?
I did not.
Yeah, I found that out from an interview with Ed and Lorraine. He apparently, according to Ed, anyways, that's what it means. I could be totally wrong, but according to him, and he seems like an expert in things.
Right.
So
yeah, we did watch the movie yesterday. So it will be posted on Patreon if you want to go ahead and watch our reactions to that.
Yep. So like I'm a chicken when it comes to scary movies. This one, there were a little bit of technical issues that I think impacted them, which we're going to work on for the next one that we end up watching. But like, for example, we were listening with headphones and the device like that we were listening, we had a splitter and it was in a projector. And so it wasn't very loud. So there were bits and pieces that I was like of conversation pieces that I was like missing certain words here and there. I wasn't quite hearing certain things, or it wasn't as loud as I would like it to be. So that was kind of, I guess, a little bit disappointing. That being said, it wasn't not scary. There were parts that definitely scared me, as you'll find out and stuff. But overall, I didn't find it like super, super scary.
No.
Like it was creepy, I would say, more than scary. Freaky that it was like based on true events and stuff. There were definitely parts where I was like, what the actual heck, if that actually happened? Like, I don't even know. But like, it wasn't like where I wanted to like scream and run away or anything. Yeah. But I thought it was like pretty well done. There wasn't anything that like I like thought was like stupid
or like too terrifying,
too terrifying or too like silly, I guess. Yeah. There wasn't like where you're like, sometimes there's like those movies where you're like, oh my god, that's so phony that like it's just like
ridiculous.
Stupid. Yeah, like ridiculous, even though it's supposed to try and be scary. Like it's just hilarious because it's so ridiculous. But I didn't find it like any of that and whatnot. How was it for you watching it for how many times have you seen it?
Like, I mean, I've watched it quite a few times, but like to me it was just like another night, like just a movie. Yeah. It's not scary to me. And like I said, the original isn't as scary as like the remake, which also we will be watching the remake as well. We just don't have a set date for that one yet. Soon to come for that though.
Yep. I can't remember. Like I think I've seen the remake, but again, I don't remember much about it, other than who was in it, kind of a thing. And that I'm pretty sure that one really scared me. That's all I remember.
So again, it'll be like a sheer reaction when it comes to you watching the movie again, which will be interesting.
Yeah. And so all the movie reactions will be up on Patreon, so that way you guys can kind of get a decent video of it as opposed to like having like it spliced or whatever and edited. There will be a short, very, very short edited version of like a sneak peek, I guess, if you want to call it, of the Amityville and maybe some of the other ones on YouTube and that kind of thing, but definitely not all of the good parts for sure. the like full thing will be on Patreon for anybody to watch. And then yeah, like I don't know, I found it like for an older movie, because like I have this like issue with movies that are older. Like I don't watch a lot of old movies. Like I'm not saying this is not an old movie, but like I do not watch black and white movies because they might be freaky and whatever, but I can't. I don't know why. I can't. So I always like color movies, and like though I think the only black and white movie I've really watched, it was a stylized black and white movie, and that was like Sin City, where it would go in and out of color and black and white and stuff. But like that was for like effect, not for because it was ancient. No offense to anybody who really likes black and white movies, but they're not for me.
Yeah, I think like the only black and white thing I've ever seen would be like Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, I can't even watch that.
I've watched a couple of his like shows, but like, yeah, it's not really for me.
Yeah, no, I can't even watch that. Although, I mean, like for that, it's like, what color was there really probably in that too? Because like the sets are fairly black and white. His outfit was pretty much black and white and stuff. So like, I mean, what would you really notice if it was a color? Maybe his skin would be a little bit less like pasty looking. Like I don't know, but yeah.
So back to Amityville.
Yes.
Or Amityville. So we know that before the Lux moved in, it was the DeFeo family. Their 20-year-old son is the one who had gone in and shot every family member. And you were saying his father was what, about a month?
No,
prior?
6 months.
6 months prior?
6 months before the murders, he decided for whatever reason to go to Montreal, Canada, which is kind of weird because we're from Canada. So like to hear that like something so famous in like New York or like Amityville had a connection to somewhere in Canada is kind of like interesting to me. But he went to Canada and brought back a priest who was an exorcist to exorcise the home because he thought there was something evil in the home. Which is just like, I find that kind of like mind-boggling that like 6 months before he died, he knew something really bad was happening. And he had like these statues made and placed around like the entire house. And when like the neighbors and like other family would ask, or friends would ask about like what the deal was with these statues, he was quoted as saying, "I have a devil on my back." And apparently he was referring to his son, because he believed that his son was possessed and into black magic and was doing drugs. And apparently, his son kept his like black magic or occulty objects or whatever you want to call it in this room, which is like referred to as like the Red Room, and which is depicted in like the movie as well. But the Red Room apparently is not on any original blueprint of the house, or like no one even knew it existed up until that point. And it's really, really small. Apparently it's like only like 5x4, so like 2 people could sit beside each other in it, but like that's as big as it was. And it's complete. The reason why it's called the Red Room is because it's painted in like blood red color, like floor to ceiling, everything, and stuff. But yeah, so I was like 6 months before he went and did all that, and was like, you know, obviously thinking that like there must be something wrong with his son, or wrong with the house, or wrong something, and he wanted stuff done. And it's just kind of interesting that that's kind of what, like, I didn't know that prior to doing like research and stuff. Actually, it's not really that much. Was it that? I don't even know where I read that or heard it. I think I read it somewhere. Where, I can't remember, but because some of the stuff is from like articles that I read, and then some of the stuff is from that. Like some of the stuff is like the interview from Ed and Lorraine, which I think is like really interesting. Like I didn't know they had like apparently like it wasn't even an interview. It was called Supernatural Night with the Warrens, and it was hosted by Tony Spira.
Mm.
And it was like it was almost like a show, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's more episodes. I'd be curious to find out. But yeah, like they sat and they talked about it. And one of the other things that they said that was really interesting that I was like, wow, when I heard this, there was a bunch of them, but was that apparently the actual GPS coordinates for the house, like for the Amityville house, are 40.666.
666, the devil's number.
Yeah. So the fact that that's where the house is located is kind of
weird.
Like I haven't been able to like verify that because like I'm not sure how you would, because like I'm pretty sure, if correct me if I'm wrong, for those people who are good with like geography and coordinates and GPS and all that, but to only have like one set of coordinates is not enough. I think you need the other one, and I don't know what the other one is. So I'm like, that's not helpful, like to find it and stuff. But
yeah, I was also very sad to see that they weren't part of the Amityville horror movie.
Yeah. It basically ended as soon as they left.
Yeah, like I know with like The Conjuring and all that, you actually see Ed and Lorraine Warren come in and do their investigation. So it was really kind of upsetting a little bit that we didn't get to see their take on
because like I hadn't really like I don't remember much about the show, like about the movie from what I did see, and like I had forgotten that they weren't part of it. So I was also kind of like, oh, like you don't see like any part of like their investigation or their thoughts or anything like that, like and stuff. You just kind of see like, I guess like the priest, who I can't remember actually what the legit priest's name is, because in the movie it was Delaney, but I'm pretty sure that that's not accurate.
Right.
Let me see if I have it in here somewhere. I'm sure I do, but where, I don't know. Maybe I don't. Maybe I lied. But that's another thing I was gonna say, is like the fact that when they got the house, they had it blessed. And like what actually happened, kind of, I don't know if like actually what happened in the movie happened, because like that's a little extreme, but I know that the priest basically like heard the demanding voice of like get out, and then had like the high fever and blisters on his palms and like that kind of thing. I don't know that he had like the throwing up and the really ill like the next day type thing, like unless either that's what they're referring to, like with just the high fever, like he was sick with a high fever, but they made it sound like he was like about to die.
Right.
And then I don't know if he actually goes blind.
I mean,
I'm not sure.
That is an odd one. But I think if you put so much faith into something, I mean, it could happen, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's still, yeah.
And I do like the fact that he, no matter how many things that he was going through, he still tried to help them with what was going on. As far as going to, I don't know if it was like a higher up father to also try to get them
to help.
And actually, what was really disappointing is that they didn't help.
They basically said, "Go on vacation. You've worked too hard. Like
it's all in your head."
Yeah.
Like,
and then even his like, I don't know what you call them, because like I'm not like familiar with like the Catholic Church's like ranking and all of that, but like the father that was like below him, I guess. I don't know what you would call him. Like
I think there's also just fathers.
Yeah, like the one that was like
taking care of him.
Yeah, like
almost.
his subordinate almost. Was, basically saying like demons are what you make of it, basically saying like you've created this, like this
it's all real. In your head type thing. Yeah.
That was kind of also like
it makes you wonder too, like if back then, if they actually did believe in like the demons and just didn't want to deal with them, or it was to them, it was just all kind of like a make believe type thing.
But like, how do you believe in this higher power of like God but not believe that there's potential something that's
the other side,
the
of
opposite. Like, the one thing, like, you know, there's always like a balance, right? Like, everything should be in a balance. So if there's like this higher power that's supposed to be like good, then you would think there would be this, like, I don't know if you want to call it higher power or just being that's also very bad. Like, you know, balances out, equals out, or whatever you want to call it. But we kind of got sidetracked about the DeFeos. But yeah, so the DeFeos were murdered on November 14th in
1974.
So why did the movie say 71? Was it 74?
We'll have to go back and take a look at that. So we will double check the research on that one,
because I'm pretty sure the movie said 71.
All 6
74.
All 6 victims were found face down in their beds, shot, and only the mother was shot in the head.
Yeah, which is weird.
It is weird. Why just your mother? I mean, why any at all?
Especially when, based on like the information about like the father, he was like a very mean, like, patriarch, drunk, like borderline abusive. Is like from the research that I was doing. Like, he wasn't a very nice guy to his family, I guess. Whether or not that's true, we weren't there. I don't know, but that's some of the research that I came across. So, like, why would you do that to your mother, but not to your father?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure, but the other thing I thought was kind of weird, and I mentioned it in the, while we were watching the movie, is I don't know how historically accurate what the weather was like the night of the murders, but if it was thundering like it was in the movie, then I understand why people didn't hear the gunshots.
Yeah.
Because if he was kind of borderline, like, using the thunder to cover it up, then, you know, people could brush it off and just be like, oh, it's the thunder or whatever. But people remember only hearing a dog barking.
Yeah.
They don't remember hearing gunshots, which I find, if it wasn't thundering or there wasn't some kind of, I know they said that the gun was found, and the gun did not have a suppression device on it. So
like a silencer.
Yeah, like, there was no silencer. There was nothing to make it quieter.
So in theory, you would think that
somebody should have heard, especially in the house.
Yeah.
Especially in the room where there was there not a room where there was 2 kids sleeping?
Yeah, I believe his brothers were in the same room.
So, like, you would think after shooting the one would hear it, and then the other one would wake up. And I don't know, but if it was me, I would scream.
Yeah.
Like, so unless, like, there's also, like, I don't know, rumors or whatever you want to call it going around saying that he used a pillow
to silence it.
Like, I don't know how much. I don't know. I don't have a gun, so I'm not sure how that works. Maybe, I don't know, but, you know, it's hard to say. But yeah, all 6 of them were killed at about 3:15.
So they say 3:15 or 3 o'clock in the morning is kind of like the witching hour.
Yeah.
Which is when a lot of the not just like entities, but like anything unknown type thing is
more active.
And they say that in a lot of different like movies and things too. So
yeah. So another thing that I found like really interesting doing the research, and I mean, I guess it was in the movie, but like I just never crossed my mind that was actually like legitimately what was happening, is that when the Lutzes moved in, they were literally sleeping on the exact same furniture as the DeFeos were murdered on, minus the mattresses, which, like, just, I don't know, is mind-boggling to me. Like, I don't know that I would want somebody who has murdered belongings in my house, let alone to live in a house where somebody was murdered in. If I knew that, like, I think that would be really creepy for me. I don't think I would want anything to do with that, but I definitely would not want their murdered, like, the thing that they were murdered in in my house.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you.
And the fact that when the Lutz family moved in, they knew about the murders prior to buying the house.
Mm-hmm. Which is why they were getting such a good deal on it, right? I
get having like the good deal, but like knowing that there was 6 murders prior to that, I probably would not have bought it.
Again, like I don't know how historically accurate this was, but based on the movie, Kathy seemed a little hesitant on whether or not this was a good idea. It seemed very, kind of icky to her, I guess, because she was like, I don't know, all those people were murdered. That's so awful. And then he basically was like, yeah, well, that's why we're getting it for the price we're getting it and whatnot. And like, I don't know whether or not that would be enough for me. Like, I do know that would not be enough for me. Like, I don't think that I would be comfortable knowingly living in a house that 6 people had been brutally murdered in, like in such a violent and like disturbing way. On top of the land, actually, that the house was built on used to be land that like an Indian tribe had, and oh my goodness, particularly where the boathouse was located, there was like a jail or some kind of like place that the Indian tribe would keep people who are like prisoners who are going mad.
Yeah,
and they would let them basically starve and die. So like that in itself is traumatic, and like if you believe in that kind of thing, like leaves like residual like negative energy in the land. And then according to like the movie, there was the whole like thing mentioned about John Ketchum, who was apparently like a witch who fled from Salem and practiced like dark arts and witchcraft and like Satanism stuff and like all that kind of thing.
The house that the Lux and the DeVeos lived in, apparently that is where he built his house when he fled.
But based on like the information that like I was actually able to get, it's kind of uncertain. Like there was a person who was named that, but there's no real like concrete evidence that they actually like performed dark arts and stuff. It said that there was a man named John Ketchum, born in England. He was second of 4 children belonging to Edward and Mary Ketchum. They moved to Massachusetts when he was 20. He visited Salem and was made free via Salem's court system. I don't know exactly what that means. And then he basically purchased land from his father-in-law. But yeah, it doesn't say that he particularly like did anything, but just the fact that there was a guy like with the same name, like who knows?
Right.
But I mean, regardless, just the self like in and itself that like the land already had like a pretty
significant
like gruesome
event,
like negative trauma and stuff. And like Ed had like that was something that Ed had mentioned in his like in that supernatural night with the Warrens, and he thinks that that's where all of like the negative energy and the like kind of like issues with the land started and stuff, which like I don't disagree. Like that's definitely enough trauma to create, a negative entity or negative force or whatever.
Yeah.
But
and like I said, like prior, like in one of our other episodes, that when Ed and Lorraine went and did their investigation at the Amityville house, when he walked in, it just felt like this big pit of evil.
Yeah.
So to me, that feels like, yes, there was the 6 that got murdered, but it feels like there was more things to that
yeah.
On top of that. So
Yeah, so I know one of the things like they mentioned that I've read about, like also Ed mentioned, is that George is like an ex-Marine. He had a black belt. He hung out with bikers. Like, does that seem like the type of guy who would run from something that was like not absolutely terrifying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it was like a normal, like, thing, I don't think that he would have fled and stuff. I think that it must have been something like that he knew he could not deal with for him to flee.
Yeah.
I guess.
And I think like because of like Kathy and her 3 children is probably why he decided to also leave, because like that puts your wife and her children in danger. Right? And like to me, I have a really hard time watching like movies when it comes to smaller children.
Yeah.
Because I'm a mom. And like I think about my children in that aspect. Like if something like that were to happen with my children, I would be gone. The second things started to go haywire, we would have been gone.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like there was times where I was literally going like, nope. The minute that like I saw this happening or that happening, we would have been gone. Like there's no way that anything is doing anything near my children when it comes to like that kind of thing. Like, no.
Yeah, we wouldn't have waited the 28 days.
No, I would have been gone like the first thing that happened. That was like a little bit weird. Like, especially if it wasn't just me that noticed it. If it was other people that noticed it, I would have been like, okay, nope, yep, we're out. Like,
yeah. And like, and some of the things that were happening in the house were like, I guess their daughter was sleeping in the same room that Jody DeVeo had passed away in. Because she kept saying like she could see the little girl.
Is that who Jody? Like, so
Jody's a little girl.
Jody was also the pig.
Was she though?
Yeah, according to the research that I did, Jody was the pig that was like in the window that was all creepy with the red eyes. But I don't know if there was a Jody DeVeo. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure Jody DeVeo was the youngest out of the Lux family.
You mean the DeVeo family?
DeVeo. Yes.
Yeah, you might. There is apparently a Jody.
And so...
no. Oh, wait. No, hold on. Who did he kill? There's talking about Jody, but Jody, then they're referring to like the pig.
If I can remember correctly, Jody was the youngest out of all of the of the DeVeo family.
There wasn't a Jody. There was siblings Dawn, Allison, Mark, and John. According to Wikipedia.
Then where does Jody come in?
Jody is literally just the pig.
So then I wonder if Jody is the evil entity.
Must be.
Masking as a child.
For her to... But the pig for everybody else?
Maybe.
Like, I'm not sure.
Because I know that they say sometimes... I wouldn't say just like a demon, but like anything evil, if they have the ability, they will mask themselves as what would be comfortable. So with children, they would mask themselves as children. And like... So I'm wondering if that's like what happened.
Maybe.
To get closer to the daughter?
Maybe, because like I know, so from the research that I did, so like the rocking chair in her room would rock. And they would see red eyes in the window. And then there was like one morning apparently that like George walked by his daughter's room, although in the movie it shows it was the mom, and she saw Jody, or not Jody, oh my goodness, she saw the daughter. What's the daughter's name again?
Missy,
is that her actual name?
I don't know.
Because what was it in the movie? I don't even remember. But anyways, they see the daughter standing in the like by the window, and they go to see like what is going on with her, and then they realize that she's actually not by the window, and when they go to look at the window, there's red eyes staring back at them, and that the daughter's asleep in the bed. And then shortly after that is when the daughter is now saying, "Oh, my friend Jody," and it's referring to her friend Jody, who's like the pig. And then there's times where they've like seen like cloven hoof prints in the snow, which was reported to also be Jody walking to and from the boathouse. And then they saw her like in the movie in the window with the red eyes and stuff. So like I don't really understand what Jody is or who Jody is or anything, because I think it's like, I don't know, if I was a kid, I don't think I would be super friendly with like a weird demon pig, which is why I'm confused as to why she would be. So like you said, maybe it was like cloaking itself to be something different.
Yeah.
And stuff.
I know that they say like they have different pictures and stuff that if you look up what certain demons look like, they look like animals that have the hooved feet and everything like that. But
like bipedal ones, like the ones that are on 2 feet and stand.
Yeah, but
almost like
why? Like it's just a weird thing to look like.
Even if you like look at like the typical depiction of like a demon or a devil, it's the horned, like almost like a ram horned being, but on 2 legs instead of 4.
Hooved, hooved feet, 2 legs,
but they stand upright instead of being on all 4s.
So like, I still wonder why that is what we depict them as.
Maybe because that's what they are. Like maybe that's what people have actually seen them as, and that's why they're depicted that way, right?
I suppose. Like
I'm not sure. I'm just, that's
your theory.
My theory, maybe. But yeah, like different other things that they had happen was George started experiencing like personality changes, like kind of like seen in the movie where he was kind of like distant and like angry, preoccupied, didn't care about his business. His business was failing. And he found himself like waking up every morning at exactly 3:15 for no reason, which is the exact time of the murders, which makes me wonder, did Robert wake up like that at 3:15 every night and then finally just snap because the voices were telling him to do whatever it is that they were telling him to do? And he just decided, well, you know, I keep waking up at this time and this thing keeps telling me I need to do this, so maybe I actually need to do it. Yeah. And then
and Kathy was having nightmares every night of the murders happening, and not even just the DeFeo murders,
but seeing George do it to her kids,
her own family being murdered by her husband. That's got to be a really scary thing to have that happen.
That for me would be like traumatizing.
Yeah.
Like, especially when everybody keeps mentioning that your husband looks like the person that murdered his family.
Yeah, apparently he was like a splitting image to the son.
Like a doppelganger level, like perfection, like exact almost and stuff. And then apparently like doors were being ripped off hinges, rooms filled with flies in the middle of winter, the green ooze coming from the walls.
Blood coming from the walls.
And then that room, that like the red room or whatever, their dog would not go anywhere near it, would cower. It's the only time that they've ever noticed the dog cowering. Harry, I think the dog's name was.
Coming back to those doors too, though, like the doors were being ripped off their hinges from the inside.
Yeah, that's where I was like, whoa, okay. Because like, I mean, not that I could see it being, if it was from the outside, people could brush it off and be like, oh, it's a really strong wind. For the one at the front door, not the one in the basement. A really strong wind, maybe you could brush it off and be like, oh, it's not a big deal, it's just the wind. But the fact that they were coming from the inside and like there was nothing that was around, like that's really freaky, because like, how?
Yeah, like they were saying like, none of the windows were broken, so no one had broken in the house.
Yeah.
So from that, I would have been like, if I had stayed long enough
to get to that point.
That would have been my breaking point. That would have been my, okay, it is time to
GTFO. Yeah,
exactly.
It's time to get out. Yeah, and apparently, like, they, like, in the movie, they showed where he would hear, like, band sounds, and then he would go into, like, the living room, and the, like, furniture would be moved around, and the carpet would be rolled up, almost like they were creating, like, a dance floor, which is kind of, like, creepy, too. Like, I'm like, cool, like, the ghosts want to, like, play, but, like, let's not. Like, kind of a thing. And then, like, Kathy, said that she felt herself being, like, embraced by, like, something. Like, she always felt like she was being touched or, like, hugged or whatever by something. And then George kept waking up to the front door slamming or, like, doors making noises. And then Daniel, the little boy, and getting his hand stuck in the window and not breaking any bones. Like,
that's odd.
Like, I mean, I'm a nurse, but, like, I feel like the amount of force to close that window as abruptly as it would have probably if it had a slammed, and the fact that if they could not get it open at it would have broken his hand. Like,
it would have broken at least a finger.
Yeah. Like, I thought, I don't know if you could hear me in the actual thing because we haven't got to that part of the, like, editing, but I was literally saying, does he lose his fingers?
Yeah.
Because I legit thought that that's how bad it was going to be, because that's how bad, in theory, it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that, you know, he should have had broken fingers at the very least, if not lost his, like, all of the fingers. Like, I was shocked that nothing was broken.
He was lucky nothing was broken. Yeah. I mean, as much as I hate seeing children get hurt, I'm happy he came out with all his fingers intact.
Yeah, but it's just, like, mind-boggling that even could happen. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't want to see somebody get hurt, but at the same time, you're like, how? Like, how?
Yeah.
I don't understand that, but yeah. And then apparently another time, Kathy had red welts on her chest and levitated 2 feet into the air while in bed. And then the crucifix on the wall kept turning. That also would have been my, like, nope, I'm out. Like, if I ever see a crucifix spinning, I'm out.
So we've, not in real life, but, like, in Phasmophobia, we have seen
them do that.
The crosses turn on the wall.
Yeah.
And they are creepy.
And the scritching sound that they make, like...
So, to see that in real life, I would be like, no.
Thank you. Exactly. Absolutely not.
Yep.
Yeah. What was it? Yeah, so apparently Daniel said that he also saw an invisible spirit entering the kitchen, knocking over a knife, sitting at the table, and making an impression in the padded vinyl seat. So, like, whatever it was, butt made, like, an indent in the seat.
You could see it sitting.
Yeah. Which he, like, apparently he came out and, like, he was silent for, like, 40 years. He never spoke about it. He never said anything about it for 40 years. And he just came out and started talking about it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's one of the things that he had said. And then he also said that there was a night where they shared levitation experience in their bed. We both woke up. He's quoted as saying, "We both woke up with our footboards smashing into each other and banging off the ceiling." Hello. What is this? Okay. All right. We got visitors. But yeah, like, I don't know. It just.
Thank you for watching part 1 of the Amityville Horror Podcast, where we talk about the movie and the real-life paranormal investigation. Stay tuned next week for part 2.